Sonic Manga Issue 2. We start out with the same small animal people from before running away screaming as meaningless Japanese text is behind them. Their cowardly behavior really makes me miss the heroic citizens of Furville who fought robots. I then get excited and impressed with the story when they get grabbed by metallic cranes because it's portraying Eggman as a genuine scary threat. You could easily imagine yourself in their situation. Imagine how tightly that crane must be holding them. So he's finally thinking to put them into badniks after inexplicably not doing so last time. I hope it's explained that he was still in the process of building badnikifiers earlier, and that's why I waited until now. He says that he plans on beating Sonic, and he's captured the animals of this island. So he's racist against Mobians, to the point where he calls them animals instead of people. Obviously, since they're able to scream and talk like people, they aren't mere animals. And I think people would only refer to the actual animals as animals, to avoid confusion with Mobians. So, that's how humans think of Mobians in this universe, just like an Archie. Maybe just like an Archie, this is a world where almost all of the animals have been mutated to be animal people. So there's barely any actual non-intelligent animals to be called just animals, so people call the animal people animals. That's the only explanation I can think of. Again, why is the title panel not the first panel? And why is he saying yes at the end of every sentence? It makes sense to me if he was originally speaking in French, and yes used to be n'est-ce pas. So the next part of South Island we see is Marble Zone, which I wanted to call level at first instead of part because this is so fucking meta. We just have to see the second level in the game second, when varying up the level order by the tiniest bit would be even the laziest way to make the story more interesting. Even Flynn at least skipped over Springyard Zone. Well, this better be a really interesting Sonic 1 adaptation full of clever commentary to make this worth it then. Because so far this is just the plot of Sonic 1, but from Eggman's perspective at first, when we could have assumed this happened. We didn't need to see this. It was obvious that the rabbit guy would get saved from the caterpillar trying to eat him by Sonic because we saw the words Marble Zone earlier, meaning that we cut away from Eggman's perspective. So now we have to be at Sonic's. I'm guessing the purpose of the caterpillar trying to eat him was that he would swallow him up to use him as a brainwashed organic battery right away. Because if he was literally just trying to eat him for food, which is all it looks like, that wouldn't benefit Eggman. Oh, Sonic said damn. You can tell this was translated by fans, because Sega or whatever would be way too chicken shit scared to have Sonic say this for an official English translation. Even though damn isn't even considered to be a swear outside of America. And this fits Sonic's rebellious teenager attitude to a T. Plus he's mad at the caterpillar who just tried to swallow someone up, so naturally he'd lose his control and forget his manners for a second, showing how much he really cares about protecting civilians, which is sweet. Imagine if this was Scourge. Why is he saying Dr. Eggman though? That's overly formal and respectful, especially when Eggman only makes sense as a mean, informal nickname. I don't think Japanese has the distinction between darn or damn or even traditional swears. So he destroys the robot in one hit effortlessly with a spin attack. Like last issue, this isn't a real action scene. And Sonic's always at its best having interesting action scenes that last a decent amount of time. We've all seen Sonic beat badniks in one hit a million times before. So while that's unique for the Sonic series compared to other series, it's really boring, and even Season 3 of Sonic X does action scenes way more captivatingly. Is anything interesting and not predictable gonna happen at all? So far I'm talking about the story way more than it deserves. It's literally been just Eggman brags about putting animal people in animal capsules, and Sonic saves an animal person from a badnik. Never seen that before. And it turns out that he knows that person's name too. I wish he was called Johnny. What kind of a name is Pocky? That doesn't sound Japanese. So if they're gonna make up a name for the fan translation that has nothing to do with the real one, I'm baffled that they didn't just call him Johnny in the translation, because that's exactly what he looked like in early SCC. But I'm guessing they never read SCC because it's not Japanese like this, which is their loss. I think I remember from the long blog posts I did on the Sega Pico game Sonic Game World, you could talk to the animal people that looked like this. And I think I remember some of the names of those people were the same ones as the names of the animal people here. Like, I think Pocky was one of the names. So I guess it's using the official canon English names for the specific animals from Sonic 1. I don't know why the hell they gave them specific names when they never had any personalities to make you care about them and were just animals that went out of badness. And there was no indication that they even had sentience like people. So I don't think that the translators needed to stay true to the canon names because nobody cares. I think the fanbase would have appreciated a SDC reference better than Pocky. Well, I like that Sonic said kinda. It's informal, just like him. But then he goes on to ask why he hasn't seen anybody in Marble Land for days. Why was it called Marble Zone then? So that previous panel was just a waste of time. Why drag this out for 2 panels? He could have just been told Eggman was behind this right away. I have a feeling Sonic the Comic did this faster. And my point is proven when immediately after this, Sonic asked what the pig guy was doing inside a robot. Again, Piggy doesn't sound like a Japanese name to me. It's inconsistent that the same fan translators who loved Japanese so much that they didn't erase or translate the Japanese sound effects proceeded to give English-sounding names to the characters instead of doing an exact literal translation of what their names must have been in Japanese. I say Pocky and Piggy can't be Japanese because they don't even have an even number of letters, and they have C and K together. So it's such a sad missed opportunity that they call him Piggy instead of Porker Lewis. Porker sounds like the name of an actual pig, while Piggy means nothing to me. I also vastly prefer how Sonic the Comic had Porker immediately tell Sonic that's not what it looked like when he got out of a badnik, lampshading that a possible conclusion Sonic could come to would be that he was intentionally piloting the robot against them. He was self-aware of the writing. Instead, the story wastes my time for a few panels dragging things out as the rabbit sheds a tear and Sonic is nice enough to help the pig stand up, and the pig conveniently knows Sonic and the rabbit personally. Why? Them all knowing each other right away makes the audience feel detached and confused. I could understand if these were the bandmates of Sonic's rock band from last issue. So not Porker tells Sonic that this is all Eggman's fault, when that should have been the immediate obvious assumption of Sonic since it involves robots. But I guess Sonic stuck around because he was so concerned about people around him, and this guy broke out of the robot before he could take off. But this boring fluff just makes me grateful that Sonic 1 had no cutscenes. Because if it was a modern game released now, with no Sonic franchise before it, we would have had to sit through a cutscene like this when Eggman put animals in robots is a self-explanatory thing you could learn in a second just by smashing a robot for the first time in the game. But I understand that it'd be uncharacteristic of a hero like Sonic to actually just keep moving on after finding out there's people trapped inside badniks for the first time, because he'd be so shocked and concerned. But he wouldn't stick around for this long because he'd already immediately know who was responsible and resume his adventure. Sonic's surprisingly angry at being told Eggman's plan, and so is the rabbit, and he says he's going to beat the heck out of Eggman before releasing everyone. First off, I wish he did. I wish I could see that, but it probably won't because the censors would say no. So that just gets my hopes up for Sonic to give him a satisfying fistfight we'll never get to see. Too bad, because I can sympathize with his cathartic rage here. This is actually showing the proper amount of anger and concern from Sonic as a reaction to finding out about badniks for the first time. And because he's so passionate about it, it actually got me to care for the first time. So this is how Sonic should have reacted to badniks in the Genesis Arc and Archie. Instead, I don't remember how he reacted to the animals at all. I think he just talked about the robots and named them, completely missing the point. And second, and then release everyone. Obviously, he'd have released everyone before he beat up Eggman, because he'd released them all on the way. Also, it would be self-aware of the writer to have Sonic express regret and embarrassment over not arresting Eggman last issue. This is all Sonic's fault for just letting Eggman get away instead of destroying his Eggmobile. And speaking of a lack of self-awareness, the writer thinks it makes sense to have someone be stupid enough to ask Sonic how he's going to rescue people, when he just saw how effortlessly he could destroy badniks in a single hit with a spin attack. Why not have faith in him at this point? This is so slow-paced for such a simple concept and plot. But at least it makes logical sense that Sonic would really care. But the exposition explaining part could have been much faster than this. Sonic at least gets endearing when he blushes in embarrassment because he has no idea where to go next. Not Porker says he should go east because he's asked which direction Eggman went after he captured Piggy. Wait, Piggy? So, no, his name was Piggy earlier. Make up your minds. So, I guess Piggy is just a nickname, and he was too concerned to call him by it last time. Or the translators could have called him Porker. I really hate that they didn't flip this panel horizontally. Instead of anticipating that the left to right reading English audience would read Sonic's reaction first and the rabbit's text bubble last, and making sure that this doesn't happen, I was confused because they didn't flip the panel horizontally after translating the text. So because there are so many different text bubbles in one panel, for once I ran into one of the biggest problems that manga has, making them alienating to English speakers, where you're expected to remember to read the rightmost text bubbles first, because that's how it is in Japanese. It's not how your brain has been trained to work for your entire life. They shouldn't have assumed that we know how manga works, because Sonic is supposed to appeal to the West. It's always been about appealing to Westerners since it first started, and that's how it got so successful and stayed that way. So obviously they should be assuming that most Sonic fans would be very familiar with manga. Sonic's a little embarrassed and lies that he was just about to ask that himself, and says he'll take his leave. And I'm angry at the rabbit, wondering if this is really gonna work out. How stupid is he? He's Sonic! Everyone saw how he handled the robots at his concert. And his concert implied that Sonic had a ton of huge fans who really look up to him. So this is completely ignoring that, and almost implies that the previous issue is non-canon because this guy inexplicably doesn't look up to him. Not to mention the previous issue was much more creative and original than this. We aren't told that he's known Sonic since he was a little kid, and so he stopped being impressed by Sonic. Sonic calls Eggman a clown, looking serious, asking what he's got up his sleeve when he should already know. And suddenly the story gets interesting and original finally, as a wall of ground with grass on top of it rises up in front of him and startles him. I wonder how Eggman achieved that. It's not like the ground below the grass is purple like in Marble Zone, so it looks like it's a new concept. And then some fireballs jump out of some magma in front of him, as we immediately go back to being unoriginal. I guess the convection alone didn't kill Sonic because he has rings. Odd that rings haven't even been acknowledged to exist yet. Sonic says that the raining fireballs are no doubt Eggman's doing, even though he's in a place with lava. So I assumed that this was the one thing that was actually natural to Marble Zone. How could Eggman be responsible for this? If you put metal stuff in the lava that would shoot out balls of magma, well, that metal would never be able to survive being put under magma, unless it was some sort of super metal. Sonic jumps away and falls a great distance. I guess surviving because he has rings, but the lack of acknowledgement of rings makes the story feel less logical. Even SCC and Archie acknowledged rings. Does it want to be like the games or not? And he wonders what Eggman's done to this island. So, the underground labyrinth area was Eggman's doing? I guess he means a hole leading to it. Seriously, a classic Sonic story not referencing rings at all is like a Mario story not referencing Goombas or coins at all. Then we see some spike jutting out of the wall, which Sonic narrowly dodges, being right up against the wall. This is actually making Marble Zone look just as intimidating and scary as it would be in real life. It's taking it completely seriously, instead of just being a bore fest where Sonic speeds through it, defeating badness effortlessly. Like in the Sonic X Comics Sonic 1 adaptation. So this is actually doing a good job, for what it's worth. They're being way too faithful to the game to be interesting, but at least taking it seriously is keeping me hooked. Sonic's not being so ridiculously cocky and egotistical that he looks like a bad guy who needs to be called out on and taken down a peg for his own good. Like it was last issue where he proudly said he was Sonic the Hedgehog, instead of taking Eggman seriously when he almost killed him. Here, he's sympathetic and really relatable, taking things just as seriously as you would. He's being a great protagonist because he's an audience surrogate. So now he's being taken down a peg after being an egomaniacal teenage rock star who's had it too good. Now he's getting to be a hero and really go somewhere. But he has to struggle and really earn that first, as he realistically gets all tense at running from a magma tsunami in a narrow passageway. Wait, what? Sparkling Zone? Well, thank God we get an original area, that's a treat. I wasn't expecting actual creativity. But that's such a jarring shift. We're immediately pulled out of the tense scene from earlier, He was just running from lava. We don't even see how he gets out of that situation. Already he's exited Marble Zone? We didn't even see him leave. That would have been one panel. It's also hard to describe the place he's in all of a sudden. There's spotlights, and what looks like a bowling ball alley. And Sonic wants to search every corner of this huge place. He also reveals some more originality by asking where Eggman is keeping everyone. So in this universe, Sonic didn't see any badniks in Marble Zone aside from the first one. I guess there's only so many animal people on the island, and Eggman didn't have enough time. Sonic doesn't watch where he's going, probably because he's distracted talking to himself out loud. And so he walks off a slide and slides into a bumper and gets bounced into a whole bunch of bumpers in a row, immediately reminding me of Spring Art Zone, as that was a memorable set piece of that level, just like the lava in the narrow passageway was the Marble Zone. So why don't they just call it Spring Art Zone? Sonic says ouch, showing a bit of realism as he's of course still hurting from all those bumpers. I love that he takes it more seriously, and it makes sense because of course Sonic would be in pain from that. Then he sees that he's sitting in front of a crab meat and an originally blue slicer, which looks really intimidating here. But if Sonic's just gonna destroy them one hit with a boring spin attack, then again, there is no excuse for padding it out by having it take multiple panels. Then the people he freed, who are by contrived coincidence the exact people Picky was talking about earlier, immediately show even more well thought out, realistic writing, as they're in pain, and one of them says that Sonic was too rough. Of course, he'd have to smack into the badniks really hard to hit them with Sonic speed and destroy them one hit. He's lucky that he doesn't just spin dash straight through the animals themselves to that point. I can only assume that the containers the animals are trapped in inside the badniks are much tougher than the badniks themselves, and that material is too rare or expensive for being what the entire badnik is made out of. It makes sense that Sonic's spin attack impact would shake the badniks inside so much that it caused the animals inside pain. And this is an actually family-friendly way of showing that Sonic's attacks would impact people in the badniks. So they met me halfway there. I'm actually impressed with the story now. I just wish the beginning was faster. Wait, what? Instead of continuing the story by us seeing Sonic apologize to them, we suddenly cut to Sonic in a place called Starland Zone. Again, how jarring and narrative breaking. We couldn't even have one panel of him apologizing like a good person would. We couldn't even have one panel of him running out of Spring Art Zone. This is so lazy and rushed. They're desperately trying to show you every zone, except they skip past Labyrinth Zone, one of the most iconic levels, to get directly to Starlight Zone. Why bother giving it a new name if it's the same zone anyways? I shouldn't have had faith. At least it's great to have a new name for these zones for once. And I guess the fan translators appreciated the change of pace too, and that's why they insisted on translating the Japanese names as literally as possible. Wait, Sonic's still with the people from earlier? He didn't just tell them to go home where it's safe? It's not like they were with Sonic since he was a baby, right? The rooster says that this is where they were put into badniks too, and they're here to lead Sonic to where he needs to go next. Okay, fine. He got here without them in the game. And based on Sonic's dialogue, this is the first time he's seen an animal capsule. And it's all the way in Starlight Zone. At least that's original. But that's the laziest, most pointless bit of originality yet. I would have actually been more impressed if they got the level order wrong. I guess it makes more sense that Eggman would make fewer animal capsules because it wastes less metal than having one for every zone. But the panel where Sonic's told by two different people that people are all sitting in the animal capsule imprisoned in it didn't need to exist. It was so redundant. This is a self-explanatory concept. Sonic shows some humility finally by saying that it's in such a hard-to-reach place, and wonders how to get at it. So now that he's in a real dangerous situation for an extended period of time, he's not so cocky anymore and has to realistically adjust. He uses a seesaw with a spike ball at the end of it, and defeats an Orbinut in the way, unrealistically destroying it instead of getting attacked by the things surrounding it, making everyone who had to deal with those robots in the game very jealous. But it does make sense that he could get lucky and hit the center of it that's actually vulnerable, because from his perspective, he's in 3D, while in the game, you're in 2D, and are thus doomed to only be facing and trying to jump at the things protecting it from the sides. Still, you'd think he'd struggle with this thing at least. Wait, why was there no animal person inside that thing? It makes me frustrated that Eggman shows up and Sonic doesn't just jump onto the animal capsule, ignoring him. He could have said what he was saying earlier while going up to the animal capsule super fast and pressed its button, and avoided ever having to... Well, it is actually safer for the animal people if Sonic defeats the Eggmobile with a spike on it before releasing them. Otherwise, he would have threatened them, I guess. But Sonic didn't know that ahead of time. It's so shocking and confusing that this is getting me genuinely invested in the story of Sonic 1. All because it's taking it seriously and trying to be more logical with it. This is so much better than the Sonic X Comics adaptation, which was literally just Sonic and friends defeating badniks without any focus on what's in them, or the unique set pieces of the stages. It's like, they could have been battling badniks in an empty void the whole time until they reached Labyrinth Zone, where their location actually mattered. Obvious fan translation once again, as Eggman tells Sonic he'll see him in hell. Though that is a surprisingly threatening line from a villain, as Sonic takes him seriously and barely avoids his spike. Eggman wastes time being stunned that he missed Sonic because he's not used to how fast he is yet. And Sonic attacks the Eggmobile with a spin attack again, and sends him flying away screaming in one measly hit, without us even getting to see him taking a block away from the arena first. As I wonder how Eggman survived the crash after his Eggmobile inexplicably flew out of control instead of just falling from the sky and crashing, and putting him out of commission. Then Sonic would have tied him up for sure. Instead, I guess he survived the crash because he had rings. I would have preferred if we had a properly sized action scene with Eggman where the writers showed creativity by adding more to the boss fight. At the very least by making Eggman do what he did in the boss fights of Marble Zone and Starlight Zone to represent those as well. They could have severely shortened the issue's beginning and had more than enough time to give this issue a properly sized climactic clash with Eggman, making it an actual clash on South Island, instead of Sonic effortlessly beats badniks in one hit and the traps are way more threatening to him than them. Just like last issue's title, it had us looking forward to something way more actiony than we get. It's like the title makers have a better sense of what Sonic's supposed to be than the story writers do. This is so inexplicable. What a rushed boss fight representation. How overpowered is Sonic that he beat him in one hit to keep the fast pacing up, when he's also so weak that he didn't completely slice clean through the Eggmobile with that hit, and make a part of it fall off? Why on earth didn't he repeatedly homie attack the Eggmobile like last time, but actually learn from his mistake and actually destroy it? What an idiot! So he basically made sure Eggman got away, again, dragging the story arc for one more issue for no reason. This makes me too angry at him to enjoy that he happily freed the animal people, who I'm only not calling Mobians all the time because they're too short. They're like regular animal sized, so they don't fit Sonic's art style at all. I hate that he said that first word as if he's crying exaggeratedly just to say happily that he saved. So the first word should have not been there. At least it's sweet to see Sonic look proud of himself for saving them, with one hand on the animal capsule's top and the other on his hip all bent. But it sure was convenient that Sonic immediately assumed this was how he could free them from the animal capsule. I guess it looks obvious that the big button-shaped thing at the top of it would be the free them button, because it appears to serve no other purpose than that, and there's no buttons anywhere else on the animal capsule. But still, this is the first time he's ever encountered something like this. So it's a good thing he didn't hurt himself by trying to spin dash through unsuccessfully at first sight, or hurt them because he did succeed. Of all the different parts of it he could have immediately looked at, he looked at the top. Why did Eggman even put a convenient button on his animal prison that would free all of them at once so they'd immediately all run away, instead of just opening up a hatch on the top? I guess it was there for when he'd have badniks ready to put all of them into, and he was planning on having them surrounded by robots so they couldn't run away. The button could just be a giant bolt covering the way out of the capsule that Eggman would have to unscrew open with his Eggmobile's crane, so only he would be able to get past it, and he'd pick up and put the animals and badniks one at a time from above. So he could have put a lock on it instead of it being weight sensitive. But I guess Eggman really didn't plan for Sonic to survive long enough to do this, and his idea of a key for this lock was the way of the Eggmobile. There's no excuse for the animal capsule being like this past Sonic 1, basically. Eggman would have redesigned it. I was thinking earlier, you'd think Eggman would have a much better plan for Sonic the next time he saw him than this. He saw how fast and strong he was at the concert. and his only idea was to clearly telegraph an attack that Sonic could easily dodge from one small Eggmobile bearing down on him from above. He could have at least snuck up on Sonic from above when Sonic was distracted. He could have waited for Sonic to jump onto the button on the animal capsule, and only then gone down on Sonic with a spike. Though that'd be dark, so we couldn't have him be that competent. But it would have made more sense for him to have a much better attack strategy than the worst possible one. He could have thrown an electric net over him. He could have had a bunch of flamethrowers come out of his Eggmobile. But he had to be a screw-up so Sonic would win, and he had to do that type of boss because it's Sonic 1. Even though he's not in Springyard Zone, he's in Starlight Zone. So why on earth did they have him beat the lamest boss ever instead of using the spike balls with the seesaws? There he had more of a chance because there was a high likelihood that the spikes would land on Sonic when he was forced to rely on them on seesaws to attack him. But even then, that boss was stupid because Eggman should have known to remove the seesaws from the arena. So including that would be bad writing. And Labyrinth Zone's boss was literally just him fleeing from Sonic because he wasn't ready yet, while only the traps in the level already were a threat. And we've already seen the Wrecking Ball boss, which was the most threatening one in this list. The Marble Zone fight had tons of fire all over the place for Sonic to dodge. That should have been shown off, being combined with this one so there would be a more complete boss fight. Instead of wasting space for the ending by having Sonic and Eggman break the fourth wall advertising Sonic 1 to us. And instead of us having such a padded out beginning with Eggman and Sonic, we could have had a longer, actually climactic action scene with more to it. Instead, the story was literally just cuts to various Sonic 1 zones, with Sonic beating a few badniks in each. We didn't get to spend nearly enough time in each zone before being jarringly ripped out of them and smash cutting to another area. It's a shame because I was respecting how seriously they were taking Marble Zone and Springyard Zone. The writing was trying to be logical and take things seriously, so I was actually invested in the plot of Sonic 1 for a change. That at least was genuinely good and enjoyable about the story. But I wish its overall pacing wasn't so slow with all the dragged out exposition on two self-explanatory concepts. Of course Sonic would be concerned and stunned at seeing people come out of badniks for the first time, but he wouldn't need a long explanation after that. But I do appreciate and respect how they tried to be original at points, even if in easily forgettable minor ways. The first badnik Sonic sees after Marble Zone is all the way in Springyard, and the first Animal Capsule is logically all the way in Starlight Zone to save on metal. But why cut out Labyrinth Zone, the most interesting level? At least the most iconic set pieces of the stages were properly represented to make it feel more like a part of the world. Well, we didn't need to see Sonic standing there on moving blocks and lava really bored. But it could have made a decent two-panel joke to lampshade how awful that was. I'd be more grateful for Sonic getting through the Sonic 1 level so fast instead of beating badniks way too many times in them if I got to see him transition from one zone to the next, instead of the narrative-damaging jump cuts taking me out of the story and making me feel like Sonic 1's story was being rushed through, cramming as many levels as they could into one story, and one of them had to get cut in the process.